is really to be able to provide folks both on campus, but most importantly alums, with a window into the life of today's Wellesley student. And the current sort of manifestations and experiences of the Wellesley Effect. What does that look like here on campus right now? So we are joined by 5 students, one in her first year, 2 in their junior years, and 2 who are soon to be Wellesley graduates. In learning more about them and their experiences, I think that they'll remind you of some things you already know. Something important really in thinking about the Wellesley Experience, its transformative nature, right? The transformative nature of a Wellesley education and why it's so important to both the college and to arguably society as a whole. So I can't say that we chose these students completely at random. There was a bit of engineering involved in selecting the group that we put together, and we knew we were creating a group of accomplished young women with great potential. But I also want to point out that it really does take very little effort to find students like these women on our campus. Young women who are really highly engaged in their educations and have a seriousness of purpose about their futures, a commitment to their peers and their communities, and an appreciation of the distinct opportunities and experiences they have as students here. And actually, we were speaking earlier, and one of the students came to me and said, "I'm a little nervous because there's so many incredible Wellesley women already. Like, what do I have to say or contribute?" But of course, every young woman who comes to Wellesley and as she's a student here feels that way. She feels as if everyone else is so amazing and she's just so average. But in fact, they're all quite exceptional. So I'll begin by briefly introducing each of our panelists. And then I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves further by answering 2 introductory questions. The first is, of course, I'm interested in this: what made you apply to and choose Wellesley? And the second, now that you're here, what is something that's really important to you about this community? So after the panelists have introduced themselves, I'll ask them a few follow-up questions, and then we will open the floor up for questions from you. Okay? So I'm going to start actually at the end of the Taylor, at the table with Taylor, who is a senior, class of 2016. Her hometown is Riverside, California, and she is majoring in economics, and we've just confirmed that yes, she's going to send the email or do whatever she needs to do to make that happen. As an economics major, Taylor works in the economics department as a research assistant for Professor Keskin, and she spent the summer at the National Economic Council at the White House working for 2 alumni, implementing the president's economic agenda. Inspired by her summer internship, Taylor is hoping to apply her economics knowledge to public policy issues in the future, and during her free time, Taylor likes to do things like bake bread. You couldn't find something less complex to do in your free time? It's hard, bread making. And working her way through Elena Ferrante's novels and running around the lake. So our next student is Hannah. Hannah is also a senior, and she is not from California. She's from Easton, Pennsylvania. Her major, though, is also economics, but she also has a minor in math. And Hannah worked as a research assistant during the summer of 2014 on a project examining the impact of widespread arsenic contamination in the groundwater of Bangladesh and the influence on mothers' breastfeeding patterns. And she continues to work on similar projects as a case fellow in the economics department, where she also serves as a teaching assistant. And she is a co-founder of Wellesley Smiles. So, remember, what was it last year? Was it the ducks that had the chocolate and the tokens? Or
that actually wasn't us.
That wasn't you. That was the wrong smile.
So dramatic.
Yes.
But it was very much like what we
It was like what you do. Give us something. What is something you do?
We filled the dining halls with balloons.
Oh.
Last year, that was one thing.
So Smiles is an initiative to foster spontaneity and community on campus. And Hannah spends a lot of time thinking about how to best foster connections among students. Hannah also spent the summer of 2015 working with the Evidence for Policy Design
in innovation of the Center for International Development at Harvard University, and she conducted their research on the private-public education market in Pakistan. Sarah is the class of 2017, a junior. She is originally from Mansfield, England. Her major is English, and she also is minoring in geoscience. And at Wellesley, Sarah is involved throughout campus in multiple organizations, including the Literary Society, the College Choir, Wellesley's radio station, WZLY, and the Wellesley Review. She also works in the Jewett Art Gallery, and she has been working in the Office of Admission. Sarah has a great interest in the not-for-profit sector since her involvement with the Sutton Trust and Fulbright Commission, and she is looking forward to traveling abroad next semester to study food security issues or social entrepreneurship. And Alexa is also a junior in the class of 2017, and she comes to us from Compton, California, and her major is biology. Yeah, Compton, see? Yeah. Alexa, I'm left coast, so I'm right there with you. Yeah, Alexa is a first-generation to college student who is one of Wellesley's Questbridge College Match Scholars, and she is here today due to the 4-year Questbridge Scholarship that covers her costs of attending Wellesley. In addition to being a biology major, Alexa is also in the pre-med track, and she hopes to one day serve as a physician in disadvantaged communities. She works tirelessly day to day to make sure to give her dreams the best chance possible. And Karrisha is a first year, originally from Boston. But she came to us via Maine. I'll explain. She graduated from Kent's Hill School, which is a boarding high school located in rural Maine. So that was a huge adjustment for her coming from Boston. She says within the first few weeks of school, she learned that ordering pizza past 8 p.m. was apparently not a thing in rural Maine, which is a little tough, but you survived. Throughout her 4 years of high school, she volunteered in the admission office for her high school and later became an intern in the advancement office. In high school, she led the campus newspaper and Amnesty International, and she even started 2 of her own clubs. By her senior year, she was part of the Curriculum Strategic Planning Committee, an important student leadership position on her high school campus. Since coming to Wellesley this August, she has started working in our admission office because, continue the trend from high school to college. I'm not going to say it's a thumb on the scale when we make our admission decisions, but it doesn't hurt. There is a little bit of that conversation like, she could be a tour guide. And she's joined the Wellesley Investment Portfolio Initiative, in addition to her work doing work in the admission office, and she's also participating in political organizations on campus. So those are our panelists. And see how impressive you are as a group? I know it's a little scary. So I want them to introduce themselves a little bit further by responding to those 2 questions that I outlined, and I'll offer some follow-up questions, and we'll see how we are on time, how many of those I ask, and then we'll let the audience ask questions.
Great. So hi, I'm Taylor. I'm from Riverside, California. And I managed to come to Wellesley the one day in the spring when it wasn't pretty. It was like 45 degrees and rainy and windy. And I wasn't super hot on it, no pun intended. And, but I was interested in anthropology at the time, and I was kind of wandering through Pendleton, and I saw Adam Van Arsdale in his office, and I just kind of went in, and I started talking to him about anthropology and the kinds of classes he offered and the research opportunities that he had. And he was just so enthusiastic to talk to me and enthusiastic about the school that I thought, I guess I'll apply anyway, despite how ugly this campus is. And when it came time to choose Wellesley, I was choosing between University of California, Berkeley, University of California, Los Angeles, Johns Hopkins, and Wellesley. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do at the time, but I knew that I wanted to go to a place where the professor would know my name. I wouldn't just kind of be like one in like a sea of faces. And I knew that I wanted the chance to do my own research and study abroad, and I just felt that Wellesley was the best place for that to happen. And I can absolutely say, without question, that it was the best decision that I have ever made, and I'm so thrilled to be here. So something that's important to me about this community is the people that I've met and how committed they are to giving back, which is such a huge part of their lives. So I have friends that are going into all different types of fields. I have friends in finance, I have friends going into technology, friends going into the arts. But each of them in their own way is already planning on how to give back to their communities. So my friend that's going to do finance in New York is already talking to me about how she's going to work at the Harlem Children's Zone on the one weekend a month she gets off. And I have another friend who's hoping to work in technology to figure out ways to develop apps that help women through health problems during their pregnancy, which is what she did over the summer and she really enjoyed. So it's just such an incredible feeling to be around people that are so dedicated to the people around them and spend their time thinking about ways to enhance their communities.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm from Pennsylvania, and the one thing that I knew when I was applying to college was that I did not want to go to a women's college. And I didn't know what I did want, but that was one thing on my list. I was like, that's not it. And so I went around and I visited all the colleges, and I have two aunts who both went to Wellesley, and my aunt had, she'd been talking to my mom, Hannah really needs to visit Wellesley, all those things. And so one day we're sitting in the Tufts admissions office about to go on a tour, and my aunt calls and she's like, this is the last time, but you need to go visit Wellesley. Like, I don't care, like, you just need to go. And my mom was like, well, we're in Boston, so I guess, like, on our way home, we'll visit. And so then we got here, and my admissions tour was actually led by an alum from my high school. And I went to a very small high school, so it was kind of a strange thing that happened. And so I visited, and I was like, this is a cool place. There's a lot going on here. I guess I'll apply. And so I applied, and I think that was one of the best decisions I ever made. When it came time to choose a college, I was choosing between Wellesley and Princeton, and I visited both. And Wellesley just felt like home in a way that really no other college that I had ever visited had. I made my decision pretty much on that gut feeling, and again, I think it's one of the best decisions I ever made. I think I've grown a lot here, and a lot of the things that I've been through or I've accomplished have only been because of Wellesley and because of the things that have happened here. Relatedly, one of the things that is really important to me about the Wellesley community is its recent, or maybe not so recent, but relatively recent attention to self-care and work-life balance, and making sure that along with being really a wonderful academic experience, that we're also kind of growing up in ways outside the classroom as well as within the classroom. And so those initiatives, including Wellesley Smiles, but also including just a general campus atmosphere and a general sense of, your health and your mental health are important, I think are really one of the things that I value most about Wellesley.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I'm from England, if you hadn't noticed. Why am I in America, specifically at Wellesley? It's a great question. I actually am here quite by chance. Actually, the story goes that it was raining and I'd missed my bus because I'm a late human being. And so I went into the local library, not that you could call it a library, and there was a poster on the wall, and I kind of just read these words, all-inclusive, America, Yale. I didn't know what Yale was, but I was going with it. So I applied to what I thought was a free trip to a place called Yale, and it turned out to be a university, which was quite nice. We visited it with the Fulbright Commission, which turned out to be a very important commission. It's a nice university, New Haven, not as nice, but they actually showed us around loads of different colleges in the area. The pretense of the program, I finally realized, was that they wanted to make American education more accessible to people in England from different backgrounds. Because if you meet a British student at the undergraduate level in America, chances are they were from a very expensive boarding school, because those are schools that actually have the staff and the actual understanding of how this educational system works and the applications process, because it's insane. What is the ACT? I don't know, but I did realize that in the end. But when we came back, they put on this huge college fair, and they had hundreds of different colleges from all over America, and it was centered in London. And I went, I was like, I'm going to go to every single stall in this entire fair, because I didn't know what Yale was, and so I should probably give them all a chance. And that's when I got to the Wellesley stall, and they weren't even admissions representatives, they were just two alums. One was probably, I don't want to guess her age, but potentially over 70. The other one was potentially not even in her 30s. I'm pretty sure they'd only met that morning, and they were already completely best friends. It's not that they were ignoring people in the room, but they were just a little bit oblivious. They were kind of just caught up in this little world of talking about how much they loved Wellesley, and I just went and joined them, like an hour and a half. I did not leave. And honestly, they were the most fabulous people I'd met, just not even just that day, but they were so different to everybody else at the fair. It's not that they were hostile, it's just it was so genuine, and they had so much love for their college that I'd never seen before. So I thought, if anything is going to actually be testament to a college, it's the people who graduate from it and how they see their time there. So I thought, I'm going to apply. And then I did. Then I got in, and now I'm here. Hi. But something that's important to me about Wellesley, I think that I learn as much from my friends as I do from my professors. That's not really something I had at high school. You kind of were in competition with your friends. You would never disclose information with your friends. But here, it's such an interactive environment that I feel like I have such close relationships from it having that dynamic. I honestly love that about Wellesley, and I haven't really seen it anywhere else.
Hi, so I'm Alexa from Compton, California. I'm your California girl. So my application process to Wellesley is unique in the way that it was through Questbridge, and in case you're not familiar with it, it's kind of like Match.com for higher learning institutions, you know, that are like cream of the crop, connecting students who come from disadvantaged communities. Is that me? Okay.
Oh, are you making that sound? They'll fix it.
Okay. Who come from disadvantaged communities because we don't really have access to, you know, the counselors that would have otherwise guided us, telling us what tests we needed to take and whatnot. So I was very fortunate to become a finalist in Questbridge, and I basically had 2 days to choose which colleges amongst their partner colleges I wanted to apply to. And so I went through the list, and Wellesley caught my eye, but so it was up there in my rankings. But it wasn't until I went in for an interview that I realized how much I actually liked the college. So I got all the mail that Wellesley sent home. I didn't throw it away. I'm very much a pack rat. And I loved the witty tone that the ads had for it and the newsletters. I was liking it more and more. We were stuck in traffic, like Los Angeles traffic, so I had time to read through everything. And so I just fell in love with it in that car ride. And I always remember that when we passed by downtown Los Angeles. So when I got to the 54th floor of God knows what building in downtown LA, it ended up being that I was interviewing the alum rather than the alum interviewing me, because I had so many questions, you know? Like, how do they handle stress over there? What's the sense of community? Just so many questions, and each of her answers got me more and more excited about this school, and I was just really happy that I put this as one of my top ranked schools, because that meant that just maybe I might actually come here. And fate would have it that I would come here. I was actually the only one in my high school to be awarded this 4-year scholarship, and when I came to Wellesley Spring Open Campus, it was freezing cold. I mean, coming from California, you know, 70-degree weather, and I come here and it was 50, and for me that's freezing. And I remember watching students, you know, just not even wearing a sweatshirt, and they were laughing and just having so much fun with one another. I was like, okay, this looks like a family can belong to. And just everybody was so hospitable within that Spring Open Campus time, and the campus was absolutely gorgeous. It was beautiful. I was taking selfies all over the place. As for one of the things that I absolutely love about Wellesley is belief. It's such a huge thing here. Your peers believe so much in you, and the faculty believes a lot in you. Back home from like my high school, middle school, if you graduated high school, boom, you're done. Nobody really expected you to go above and beyond. Nobody expected us to become doctors, lawyers, engineers. But here it's like we're not expected to stop once we graduate. People are going to go into the workforce in really influential companies, or they're applying to grad school or medical school and all these awesome things, and it's not unheard of here at all. And it's very much a team effort between your friends and professors as well, who have an intense interest in giving your aspirations as much a chance of becoming a reality. And that's one of the huge things here. To have somebody believe in me makes me believe in me. And that's been a journey throughout my first year to junior year, and that's one of the things that I absolutely love about this place.
Wow, this is a tough act to follow. But before I went to high school, I really wanted to go to a single-sex boarding school. However, that didn't happen, unfortunately, and I ended up at Kent Hill School, which is a co-ed school. And, fast forward, I'm a senior, and I was thinking about colleges. And I was like, yeah, Wellesley sounds cool, sounds great, but there were just so many other great schools as well, so I was really kind of like dipping my feet into like a lot of different universities and colleges, and I applied to about 15 of them. And then March came around, and I actually got some acceptances, and I was like, oh, wow, okay, great. So I was fortunate enough to have some options, and that kind of made it more tough for me. Wellesley, I was lucky enough Wellesley was one of the options, and I was just so confused. I just didn't know which school to pick, and it was a week before decision day, and I'm like, I really got to make a decision soon. So I spent a lot of time doing some self-reflection and kind of like focusing on who I was today and what kind of person I wanted to be a year from now, 5 years from now. And during that process, I kind of like took a look at some of my mentors who have helped shape me into the woman that I am today, and all of them but one are all women. So I was like, okay. And then
Hint number one.
number one. Second clue, 3 of the 5 mentors all graduated from Wellesley. So hint number 2. And I looked at all of these amazing women, and they're just some of the most fearless people I've ever met. They're some of the most bold, courageous, kind, loving women I've ever met. And, I was like, I kind of want to be like these women. And what is it about them that kind of made that or shaped their person to be that person that they were and they are? And I figured, I went to Spring Open Campus my senior year, and I heard Joy speak for the first time. And again, this is when I was torn between a few schools, and I just sat next to my mom and I started crying. I was like, Wellesley's definitely a place where I want to be, because it's definitely a place that fosters and nurtures these characteristics. I feel like a lot of the ladies here do come with these characteristics, but Wellesley's a place that like polishes it and encourages it. And I just figured like it's like a no-brainer. Absolutely, like I wanted every single part of Wellesley. So I was really glad that I got accepted and chose it, and I haven't looked back since. So really glad to be here. And then community. Just the word community, that's why I chose Wellesley. I went to a really small boarding school. It's about 230 kids. So after 4 years, I really got to know everyone, faculty, all of their children, when they had doctor's appointments, like every single thing. So coming to Wellesley, which is technically considered a small school, it kind of felt like big to me. But as soon as I stepped foot on campus during orientation, there were just so many student leaders and different organizations that were here to help us. Every second of the day, it's just like, do you need help? There's this organization on campus. Do you know where the health center is? Do you know where this help? But just everyone was willing to help us, and they were just genuinely excited to get to meet us. So that just really like encouraged me and inspired me, and made sure that I picked the right place. So yeah.
Thank you, Karrisha. All right, so I'm going to ask a few follow-up questions, and then I'll let the audience ask some questions. So let's talk a little bit about your academic experience, and maybe something that you really valued about your experience so far, even maybe talking about a favorite class or professor with whom you've worked.
Are we going in order here?
No, you don't have to go in order. And so not everyone needs to answer the question, so yeah.
Do you want to go?
Yes, I got that. So So I'm a first year, so this is like my, first couple months here. But I really love the fact that our teachers really love us, not just as students, but as people. They are just constantly willing to help us in whatever way it is, whether it's like academically related or just help with like time management or, helping out with your schedule or whatever. I remember a couple of weeks ago in Spanish class, we were on the topic of like food and what do you like to order, and like if you can eat one thing right now, what would you eat? And I said cookies. And mind you, this class is at 8:30 in the morning, and my teacher's like, Karrisha, really, cookies at 8:30 in the morning? And I said, yes, it's midterm season, papers and presentations. And she said, okay, fair enough. Next class, she came and with a bag full of cookies and juice. And she said, because of your fascination and your love for cookies, I brought you some cookies to share with your classmates. And I'm just like, wow, thank you. Like, you actually like remembered that. And another thing is, Wellesley just has great resources. I'm like technically not a I'm a first generation American, and my mom did go to a 4-year university, but she just didn't have the resources and the mentors to guide her throughout her life. So I really do kind of share some of I resonate with some of the struggles that first generation American students do face. And Wellesley has like an amazing mentor program called Wellesley Plus that really helps students who are first generation or coming from disadvantaged communities and kind of navigating this awesomely but really dense and complex school environment, like how to talk to your dean and where to find all the class registrations and just different stuff that a lot of kids kind of already have preparation for that students like me didn't have. So I really appreciate Wellesley for its efforts.
Yeah, no, I can definitely agree to everything that Karrisha said, but one of the things about Wellesley's academics is that it's hard and it's like it's painful, and you start off the school, you're like, oh god, this is too much, I'm just gonna squeeze my eyes shut and open them and pretend it's all gone, but it's not. So we have to buckle down, plan, and sort of map out everything, and by then it's like, oh, okay, it wasn't that bad, and we end up so much stronger than we started. I just look back and see how much my resilience has built up. I remember my first year, I was freaking out with my first science lab. I thought, oh my gosh, this is insurmountable. I'm not going to get through this. And now I'm in 3 labs and a lot of other things. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. So it's really okay. So I told my boss this theory that I have, that Wellesley is like Sparta. So it's really painful, that the training is really painful, it's arduous, but they're building us up to be like warriors, warriors of our dreams, of our sisters' dreams. We're becoming defenders, and a lot of good things don't come out of no struggle. So you have to struggle through the pain in order to grow up and be a leader from that pain. And I love that Wellesley puts you through that pain. Yes.
That was incredible. Academics for me, sometimes I forget to appreciate how special the type of professors are here. They genuinely care for you, are invested in your future. It's not that you take a class with someone and you'll never speak to them again. They'll just sort of like call you into their office a year later. I'm like, Sarah, do you want to sit down and have tea? Because I remember that you like tea.
Well, you are British.
It's true. Maybe they didn't remember. Maybe it was an assumption. But I'm going to talk about. Joy has heard far too much about this fabulous man.
I know what she's going to say.
Also, is this being recorded? He can see it. But he's called Geos Dave. He is in the geoscience department, which is a place I thought I'd never go. And he is just the epitome to me of a Wellesley professor. He has 3 children and a wife, but you wouldn't know it. He lives his life in that department and will spend every other weekend with the geoscience students. I remember the first class I ever took with him, volcanology, of course. We were just looking at this certain type of outcrop, and he just paused and was like staring off into the distance. He goes, I know some really great examples of these near my house in Maine. What's everyone doing this weekend? We're like, oh, I don't know, Dave. But that weekend, we all ended up going to his house in Maine. He drove us all. He disappeared for a while, came out with groceries and cooked us dinner. Then in the mornings, we would catch, well, first we'd go to Dunkin' Donuts for breakfast, but then we would catch boats off to the volcanic islands off of Maine, and he would show us all those outcrops that he'd literally been talking about in class just because he thought it would be useful. It wasn't that we didn't have a field trip practically every other week anyway, but I know for a while that he also paid for the entirety of it himself. But his house in Maine was really quite nice, so I wasn't worried about that. But he even managed to make geoscience relevant to me and, well, my mother. My mother comes into this too. She always does. I came here as an English major. I thought, just major in English. You can do those distribution requirements, but just focus on the English, become an expert in Chaucer, and then go on to graduate school. But then I had to take my laboratory requirement. This was not me, so I thought rocks are incredibly safe. I could not go wrong there. I would take Geoscience 102, get it over and done with. Maybe I can collect like some nice rocks. I have. But it was honestly the greatest class I've ever taken here at Wellesley. I haven't stopped taking geoscience courses. It's now my minor. It might overtake and become my major. But I realized I don't actually want to maybe go off and do English research, maybe become a scholar. I actually want to work in development now. But I'm still majoring in English just because it's such a relevant major. Presentational skills, communication, being able to write persuasively for money. But then geoscience for actually understanding the content. But when I told my mother this, because she had loved the idea of me becoming, a professor at Cambridge in like my 50s of English, she was not impressed. She didn't quite understand. She was like, Sarah. I'm pretty sure on the phone when I told her this, that she Googled then and there the word geosciences. And then she's like, Sarah, I don't think this is a lifestyle for you. So you'd be working in fields and mountains. I was like, no, not necessarily. I might have an office. I don't actually have to be taking measurements. There's more to geoscience than that. But this is where Geos Dave comes back, because Geos Dave is a wonderful man. He understands that sometimes it's difficult to see within a major what it is you could potentially be doing with it past Wellesley. So he invited back, he organized this huge dessert session. It wasn't really a brunch, it was just dessert, where he invited back alums who had actually majored in geoscience, and they talked about what they had actually gone on to be doing. There were people who were CEOs of company, they were working on Wall Street, they were doing a whole range of things. And it's just, he obviously organized it all just in his free time. He had nothing better to do apart from his family. And it was so incredibly useful to me. Like it showed me things that I could possibly go into, but also it was very useful in persuading my mum that geoscience is a legitimate sort of area of study, and I could potentially one day actually work in an office, even if I major in geoscience and in money. So in conclusion, the professors here are wonderful.
So I'm going to ask, you all talked a little bit about your personal relationships, so I'm going to sort of skip that question and ask, though I know that you've all, or many of you already, not you yet, Karrisha, have had a great chance to do internships or research. And so if you've had the chance to do that, can you talk about how those experiences have informed either your academic work or your plans for the future, or maybe even just your worldview?
Sure, I can start. So I've had several different research experiences that have all built on each other in, I think, a really, really valuable way. The summer after my sophomore year, I was a research assistant over the summer in the Wellesley Econ department through a program called the Social Science Summer Research Program. which had about 20 students in all of the social science departments, about 4 per department. And it brought us together once a week to kind of present to each other, think about multidisciplinary relationships between our work, and then present at the end on this project. And that was when I started working in the econ department, and I haven't stopped since. So that was kind of the first thing. And having that research experience, that very that was a very nurturing research experience. I met with the professor that I work for. I met with her every few days, and it was very structured, and I really felt like I understood the research process, but I was building, I was learning. It was very much an educational experience. Well, then this summer, I was really fortunate to be an intern at the Harvard Kennedy School because of the funding from the Albright Institute, and some connections at the Albright Institute helped me find this professor that I was going to work for. And that was an entirely different experience. My first day, they were like, why don't you write this policy brief to our funders and tell them everything we've done in the last 5 years? And I was like, okay, so I have to go learn what you did for the last 5 years so that I can write it down. And so at the same time, I was kind of, because of the experience I had had at Wellesley, I was able to jump in on kind of the technical aspects of the job, and it was all based in this kind of foundation at Wellesley. My summer experience was wonderful. It was very hectic, but wonderful. And I'm really grateful to the Albright Institute for helping make that happen. I don't know that I would have been in the field. It was focused on education and development, and all of my previous work had either been in kind of health development, and then also the U.S. education system. And so I kind of got this new look through this, and yeah, it was just a great experience. And it's because of these 2 experiences, I'm going to continue next year as a research assistant, and probably go on to grad school in economics. And that is not something that that is not a path I think I would have come to if it had not been for these research opportunities. I think that while the academics is, I'm going to talk about the econ department because that's what I know, that while everything is very evidence-based and very focused on the research process, there is, I don't think I would have known that how much I enjoyed the research process if I hadn't kind of dove into it for several months at a time. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of been my path, has been through these research experiences.
So, like Hannah, I was lucky enough to be chosen as an Albright Fellow. And last winter session, we spent 3 weeks on campus hearing from people from the private sector, the nonprofit sector, and government, talking about how they are addressing issues around the world through their work, which was just such an inspirational 3 weeks. Just being around people that are passionate about helping others, whether it's, they're in a Fortune 500, like how are they going to use their products to help their consumers and not just, sell them things. It was just such a cool time, and it made me realize how much enthusiasm I have for working in the public sector. And it also led to my summer at the White House, where I worked for a Wellesley alum, Paige Shevlin, in the National Economic Council, where I was responsible for working on the skills portfolio in the administration, which is basically dedicated to helping hourly, low-wage workers improve their skills so that they can advance in their careers and support a family on their wages. So, I can't even explain how cool, it was really cool to be in the White House. I'm gonna be honest with you. So, every day you get to swipe in, and just sometimes you see the chief of staff going to his morning run, and you just kind of scream on the inside, or maybe a little bit on the outside, quietly. And then you go to meetings where, I was in a meeting once about a project that there were 5 Wellesley alums on, and it was just so cool. Betsy Stevenson from the Council of Economic Advisors, we have 2 women in the National Economic Council, another research assistant in the Council of Economic Advisors. It's So I'm just saying that Wellesley's resources for internships and experiential learning have had such a huge impact on shaping what I'm going to do. I'm applying to a lot of jobs in the government, kind of similar to Hannah in economic research with a public policy focus. And I don't think I would ever have the opportunity to, meet any of these incredible women in the White House to shake Obama's hand. This hasn't been washed since June, so sorry if I shake any of your hands later. I just can't even describe what an incredible summer that was, how much I learned, and how much I know that it's going to shape the rest of my life. And I have to thank Wellesley for that.
So before we wrap up and open it up for the audience, going back to the campaign theme of the Wellesley Effect, right? I want to ask you to sort of reflect on that and what it means to you, and just for the audience, for those of you who don't have a real definition yet, the Wellesley Effect is really being defined as the transformative power of a Wellesley education on the lives of individual Wellesley women, and then the ripple effect that these women have in the world beyond Wellesley.
Hope you're not tired of my voice yet. So for me, the story that comes to mind when I think about the Wellesley Effect is my relationship with math. So in high school, I was one of 4 girls in my AP Calculus BC class, and it was really hard. I spent so much time with that teacher just trying to figure out what on earth was going on. And then all the boys in the class said, "This is easy, I don't even have to try." And I was like, "What do you mean you don't have to try?" And then I got to Wellesley and I thought, I don't know if math is really for me, but I had to take this requirement, math requirement. I took multivariable calculus. And for the first time, I was around women that loved math. I mean, they got that sparkle in their eye that, I do not associate with math. But it was awesome. These people that were just really wonderful to talk to generally had an interest in something that I felt was never going to be something that was my strength. And that inspired me, maybe math is something I could be good at. And with the help of Alex Diesel in our math department, whose office I stayed in for many hours that semester, I found out that I'm actually pretty good at math. And I don't think I would have had that without Wellesley. I think Wellesley is a lot about showing you skills showing talents that you might not have otherwise discovered, and encouraging you to test your boundaries and try things that you may be scared to try. And I know that when I go out into the workforce and I meet, people who are, thinking about college, I'm going to tell them to go to Wellesley and encourage them to take math. Definitely, because it's a great thing to learn, and I think there's an unfortunate number of women that feel like it's not their strength because society tells us that, women just aren't that good at it, but we are. So take Alex Diesel's class.
Anyone else on the Wellesley Effect?
I guess I could speak to that a little bit. So I noticed what the Wellesley Effect was. I remember the Friends and Family Weekend here. So I'd volunteered to be the greeter for our families at some sort of lecture, and I got my name tag, and it said my name, my class year, where I come from, my major, and it felt like everything I'd worked toward was in that name tag. And I was so intensely proud of myself, and being proud of myself was something that I've never really allowed myself to do until that moment, and it was really overwhelming, and I almost cried out of happiness. And I knew that it wasn't just my success, it was our collective success. Wellesley really provided me the resources to do well here and to learn how to maximize all of those resources. For example, I'm a biology major, and I'm in the major because I love it so much, but that doesn't mean it comes naturally to me. It's a struggle. But I spoke to some professors, and I got some one-on-one tutoring, and just really mastering that knowledge and feeling comfortable with it helped put the biology part of my information, I suppose, on a name tag. And it's just the incredible support here helping me become a stronger person. And I mean, now I'm encouraging any, first year, sophomore, anybody, telling about my experiences with the writing tutors, with all of these excellent resources that there's so many that it's hard to keep track of which ones there are and where they are. So just spreading the word about that and empowering women and to let them know it's okay for you to feel proud of yourself because you worked super hard to get to where you are. So that was my moment, and I have that name tag still hanging on my doorknob, and it still makes me smile because, you know, it's really working against a lot of obstacles to be here where I am today, and it's really a large part due to the support that I get here.
That's good.
I'll just piggyback off of her. In high school and even in middle school, it wasn't like the cool thing to be that person who's talking in class and who taking it a step further and analyzing text and not just simply what the book said, but like relating it to current day. However, here on campus, like that's far from the truth. Like I'm always challenged in class. Students are always smiling when you're adding and contributing to the class discussion, and it's really encouraged and well-liked and well-appreciated here on campus. And I'm always just meeting fabulous ladies such as these women who are just doing unbelievable things, and we're all like just supporting each other. I know sometimes like, well, for me, I was, you're too ambitious, you're doing too much, like when are you gonna stop, like whatever, just all these negative connotations. But here it's like, you keep going, like good for you, and you know, it just puts a smile on my face. So I'm just so happy to be in a community where stuff like this is the norm. So that's the Wellesley Effect for me so far.
That's great. That's great, you guys. So can I open it up for questions from the audience? Because I just want to leave a little time because I would have questions of you. You all are, I'm almost crying here a couple times, but I kept it together. And everyone in my office who's sitting here knows I'm not a crier. I don't believe in crying at work. Are there any questions for the panelists? Yes.
I would love to hear a little bit more about what Wellesley is doing for health and taking care initiatives. One thing I know from even my time, and I think time before me and current time, and I'm also a mother to 4 daughters, is this majority, I feel like Wellesley women and a lot of women, is this pressure and perfection and need to succeed. And so I was really interested by what Hannah had to say, because I don't think there were many programs similar to this health and taking care of yourself, which is something that becomes really important as you continue on your life journey. So maybe any of you want to speak about that and how you're creating that balance for yourself.
Yeah, and just for the recording, let me kind of summarize and repeat the question, which is, so you've been asked to reflect a little bit on some of the things that Wellesley seems to be doing or that your peers seem to be doing to help address your health needs, right? Your physical, emotional health, in addition to making sure that you're, empowered and achieving academically.
I can start. So I think one thing that kind of seems to mark a change to me is that in the last 2 student government campaigns, mental health has been a really big part of the campaign, and one of the things that the candidates for CGP have been talking about improving. So I think that's a big step. But I also think that there is a lot being done, but also more to be done on more of the preventative kind of side of things. I think that Wellesley students and also liberal arts students in general are very, very focused. Wellesley attracts a very determined, focused type of person. And when you bring all of that focus together, you can get a little narrow, your focus narrows a little bit. And people are very busy. And people get caught up in their busyness. The friend of mine with whom I founded Wellesley Smiles and I call it a culture of busyness. And it's something that we've talked about a lot with the Dean of Students office who funds Wellesley Smiles. So SMILES stands for Spontaneous Moments in the Lives of Everyday Students. And the goal is really to encourage people to look up every once in a while and remember that you don't need to schedule in every aspect of your day. You can take 5 minutes to pick up the free popsicle that we're handing you, or you can take 10 minutes to doodle on the doodle board, or you can take 2 minutes to look at the doodle board that other people with more artistic talents than me have left for you. And so I think that both of these sides are kind of growing. People are thinking about them. I think self-care is not selfish is a phrase that is heard relatively frequently. And I think it's on the mind of both the administration and the student body. I think that there's more to do, but I also think that we're moving in the right direction.
What's the food situation like in the dorms? Because I went to graduate school in the Midwest and then taught out there. It was kind of appalling to me that cafeterias are turning into food courts, like with, pretty much really bad food.
So just repeat the question, right? Sort of what's the food situation like? What are your food options here on campus? How do you feel about it?
I like to think of the dining halls as opportunities.
For what, Sarah?
Many things. For one, I love the fact that we don't have that awful swipes. That I've begun to really appreciate the dining hall food here. I went to visit my friend at Dartmouth. There is one central dining hall, and you get a swipe system. You're only allowed a set amount of meals per week. It's not 3 a day. Some people hide in the bathrooms until the next meal. I like that that's not a thing here. But also, we have such an incredible range if people actually bother to actually go and find the food. Not that anything's particularly far away at Wellesley, but they publish the menu every day. And if you can't sit in a dining hall and be like, ugh, I don't really fancy any of this, when there's a dining hall 2 minutes walk from you with something that you would eat. But I'm really into cooking, which is why I said opportunity. Sometimes I literally just gather really great ingredients, really quite good ingredients, especially from the salad bar. You can make an amazing stir fry, and then I just cook. Sometimes I'll even give you eggs if you ask. We also have really great food events. Recently, cheese night. That was a popular one. I mean,
one more. Sorry, go ahead.
I understand it's not home cooking, but compared to a lot of I visit my friends quite often at other universities, and I come back to campus, and I am so grateful.
And hungry.
And hungry for real food.
Yes.
So I'm a prospective Wellesley student, and I just wanted to thank you all for all your incredible, inspiring stories about how Wellesley has affected your lives. You make me want to become a Wellesley girl even more than I already do. So with all the incredible things you're doing, how do you find the time to do everything you want to do here?
That's a great question. How do you find the time to do everything you want to do here? And when you all come up with the answer, you let me know.
Right. I think you want to do everything that you're doing, though. Because Wellesley gives you that. I don't know why I'm sitting so close to the microphone. Is that a strange thing that I've been doing?
It's
Sorry.
an intimacy. Yeah.
Wellesley gives you that freedom to pick what it is that you really are passionate about studying and get involved in, what you're really passionate about being involved in. So it's not that you're finding the time to do things that you want to do. You're already doing it every single moment of your life. I think the only sometimes maybe the only issue is you want to sort of spend time with friends in a very casual environment. And sometimes scheduling is difficult, but we can make it happen because we are Wellesley women.
Speaking as a senior with a semester left, I can absolutely say you will not get to do everything that you want. Because my schedule for next semester currently has 10 classes on it. Not sure how that's going to happen, but I think that only speaks to the strength of Wellesley academics when you want to take so many classes. So it's really a test in prioritizing, what you most want to do versus what you really want to do. So I took a class my first year with Professor Thomas Hodge in the Russian department, and I don't know if any of you, he's been here for maybe 20 years, so maybe you've seen him, but he's fabulous, and I've been reserving a spot in my senior spring to take another class with him. So just strategic. And also get your requirements out of the way early, and that's helpful too.
Okay, so this year that's been one of the major things that I've learned so far is balancing extracurriculars. So I've got my classes pretty well planned out, but it's with extracurriculars, you think you have it all done, like, okay, I found everything that I possibly like and I have my toes dabble in each one of them. But then you find out that there's more. And so you just have to really become familiar with your limits. And then I find that talking about this to advisors, for example, my major advisor, my pre-med advisor, it's not limited to just schoolwork. I talk to them, I'm interested in this org, and I'm on e-board on this one. And I think I can't handle it, maybe I can, but then they've seen me grow, and they're able to put in their 2 cents. So, for example, this year, it's just really making sure that my planner is my best friend and putting in like, okay, this time from this time I'm going to be in this meeting, and this time to this time I'll be at this help room, but from this time to this time I'm going to give myself some me time, and I'm going to read, or I'm going to color, or I'm going to Netflix. So, oh yeah, coloring, that's been...
Adult coloring, it's the big
Adult
thing.
coloring,
It's huge in our office.
Yeah, it's really been super good for mental health, actually, the coloring. And writing also. Oh, yes, but what I'm trying to get to is make sure you give yourself some you time, because at the end of the day, yes, classes are awesome, extracurriculars are awesome, but a happy you is even more awesome. So just make sure you're budgeting in that time as well.
So we have time for one last question. So
My question in that same vein is, what is the one thing you want to do before you leave Wellesley? You did, it could be an org, it could be a class, it could be something in Boston, it could be anything.
So the question is, what is the one thing, so maybe the one thing you haven't yet done that you still want to do before you leave Wellesley as a student?
Mine is kind of silly. I want to do the scavenger hunt here in the Science Center that they have during the summer research program. I really want to find that mole. Yeah, they hide a mole.
A real mole.
It's a stuffed one.
The mole's move. I don't know if that's fine. I'm thinking.
I'm thinking too.
Oh gosh.
I'm not sure if this is in the realm of possibility, but there's a professor in the economics department, Akila Wilrapana, who is apparently a mean chef in the kitchen, and I love to cook. So we're working on a cooking thing.
Oh,
I don't know if it'll happen. That would be awesome.
I would
It's
come
like
to that.
It's a pipe dream. We'll see.
I'm excited for Marathon Monday, which I'm sure you guys all. For my first Marathon Monday, I remember I'm from the area, so I've always gone to Boston Marathon, and I could always hear the Wellesley students screaming down like a mile far. So I'm so excited to kind of be a part of that now.
Actually, I've thought of it. I really want to. I'm not sure if this is even allowed anymore, because apparently you don't have access to the roof of the Science Centre. That used to be different. But I really just want to watch the sunrise from the roof of the Science Centre with some friends like we've seen a year. That would be beautiful. Maybe if I can get it allowed, make it a thing that's safe with like a campus PO or something, then it could be fine.
Oh, that would be nice.
Right?
Like the night of senior prank, like to just finish it up there.
Hiding from the class. You take a picnic. Not wine. That wouldn't be wise.
I see some wheels turning here. I know where this is going. Hannah, do you have something?
I do. Mine's actually a little different. I'm actually, there are still a lot of things left that I want to do, but I'm also very happy to be content with where I am. That has always been a struggle for me, and so the fact that right now I can't really pin down any one thing, I'm pretty happy about, and so I'm gonna just share that.
You can be a taste tester.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe on the roof of the Science Center.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We'll just pool them all together.
All right. Well, Taylor, Hannah, Sarah, Alexa, Karrisha, I can't believe you were even worried that you couldn't represent Wellesley well, because you were all amazing. and such great representatives of Wellesley and the Wellesley Effect. So I know if anyone has individual questions for the students afterwards, they'd be happy to answer. And as I want to especially thank you for doing this on a Friday afternoon. When I was given this assignment, I was like, I got to email students and ask them to do a panel on a Friday afternoon. You're killing me, people. But they've all been invited to the gala later tonight, so I had something when I went to them. So we'll see you there tonight, and if there are other alums who want to connect with you this evening, they can as well. And so thank you again for participating today.